Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the DBL Podcast. I am your host, Rock Solid. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about something that a lot of people seem to get confused about. Am I dating or am I in a relationship? You know what I'm saying? Are we together or are we just kicking it? Is that my friend? Is that my homie? Is that my homie lover friend? Is that my sidekick? Is that my cut friend? Is that my lifelong partner? Is my soulmate? We're going to try to separate the two and hopefully give you a better interpretation of what it is, right? The one thing about dating is, dating is really about figuring out if you want to pursue someone or something further with a singular person or multiple people, right? But relationships mean that you already know that you're interested and you want to see if you really have a future together, okay? Dating tends to be kind of like the full uncertainty or the awkwardness where you're just trying to figure it out and you're fumbling your way around. It's kind of like being blind for an hour where you know where everything is but you don't know where nothing is. You know what I'm saying? But relationships have a tendency to be more comfortable and it make you feel secure. It's like being locked in your house and you're the only one with the keys. Can't nobody get in without you knowing about it. And that's how relationships, you can, the interpretation of it, right? But I know a lot of people are probably wondering, like, how do I know if I'm in a relationship or, versus dating? Well, I'm going to give you a few inputs. I'm not going to tell you how. I'm going to give you some input to tell whether you're in a relationship with a person or not. You know what I'm saying? Again, I try to stress this to people. I am not a guidance counselor. I'm not a relationship therapist, right? I'm an alternative way of thinking when it comes to looking at things. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes something that you may deem to be corny or, outside the box, sometimes things are just as simple as that. Ask this question and whatever answer they give you is usually the answer that you need to receive, but sometimes we don't see it that way, right? So we're going to kind of get into it and kind of just go from there. Um, you know, if you're when you're in a relationship with someone, they refer to that other person as their boyfriend, their girlfriend, my man, my woman. You know what I'm saying? That's my soulmate, that's my boo, whatever, right? You kind of know by the terminology that you're in a relationship, right? But when you're dating someone, they refer to you as like, that's my friend, that's my companion. Someone both know, oh, this is just somebody that I'm dating. You know what I'm saying? Being in a relationship is more important than just dating, right? But the terminology can create a lot of confusion in the other person's mind. And I'm gonna tell you something. I was one of those people that was kind of spreading this information about because in my mind, I don't care if we're in a relationship. We're dating. Because I'm gonna get into it a little bit later, but I was always under the impression that whatever you did in the beginning, which was dating, you have to do that throughout the relationship. So if we're continuously dating until we get married, even when you get married, you're still dating because you have to do those same things to keep that person's interest and peak. So that, you don't all of a sudden become someone else that, they're not they're not clear on who you are, right? And so people have to kind of be mindful of to keep a balance because you can grow, but you don't want to leave that other person behind, right? You can be ready for something, but if the other person isn't, you don't want to, go without them, and then all of a sudden now there's conflict, right? So we're gonna kind of get into it, the difference between them, and even though both of them, kind of point out the similar directions, they have a tiny difference. And, that result in those entirely different scenarios of being with someone. And in case you're unclear, right, or unsure, I'm gonna give you just a few pointers on how to tell the difference between dating and being in a relationship. Okay, for instance, dating is really about a fun relationship with a casual intimacy. Sometimes y'all kicking it, hang out, and what I'm saying, you're having a little sexual intimacy, whatever the case may be, or you're having moments that's not always sexual. Don't get me wrong, intimacy is not always about the sexual part. Sometimes you can be gazing each other's eyes, looking into the moon, building a bond, building the chemistry, right? But in a relationship, what I'm saying, that crap is way more fierce and there's a romantic side in it. You're just not hanging out. It's not about trying to get it in before we go. Everybody got time for what comes with it, you know. But relationships are all about the loyalty. And you have to be loyal to a person in every single thing. Whereas dating does not require much dedication. Not it doesn't take a whole lot of commitment. Um, And there is more to love than just lust in a partnership. And being dumb is okay when it comes to dating because you're making mistakes, but they're not mistakes as long as you don't lose self, lose who you are, or start in making yourself someone that you're not just to appease someone else, for lack of a better term. Okay. But managing a relationship through all phases is not always easy. Sometimes it's hard. You know what I'm saying? Because people come from different backgrounds, different expectations. Like I said, if you had met me, I'm telling you that we're dating. You're saying that we're in a relationship, which means two different things to you, but to me they mean the same thing. So sometimes it can be hard. You know what I'm saying? You're constantly confused since there are 1,000 questions and concern, especially when you first start and it's like casually dating, and you're unsure if you're still casually dating or, if you guys are actually in a full fledged relationship. Because, as men, if you don't tell us that we're in a relationship with you, then we ain't in a relationship with you. Ladies, on the other hand, are a whole lot differently. If you can't tell them that you're in a relationship, then you're not in a relationship. So both of those can be true at the same time. But if you don't have an actual conversation, then you're not actually having a conversation. Okay. And it becomes something intense. You don't have to have good vibes because you're in love in a relationship. Instead, you have the butterflies and they roaming around in your stomach, due to anxiety from dating, which drives the other person or happening. You don't really know what's happening next. So you're having a confusing moment and you're doing different things. And it might be a challenge. Hell, I'm gonna use a big word. It might even be perplexing at times. But it's also fairly significant change from dating to being in a committed relationship. You cannot interpret the other person's thoughts. Now it becomes afraid to ask them, and sometimes it stays confusing because, again, if you don't ask the questions to what it is you want to know, I'm telling you from a man's standpoint, if you don't ask for clarification, you may not get it. But don't get me wrong, fellas. A lot of ladies now that are on the earth, they think they want to take Steve Harvey's advice and act like a lady and think like a man. Well, when you think like a man, there becomes a lot of unclarity. Wrong word. It's not even a word. Uncertainty, because you don't really know. You know what I'm saying? Because a woman is quick to tell you, "Oh, that's not my man," or "You're not my man. You can't tell me what to do." But as a man, we just kind of roll with the punches. So you have to be very careful. But this also goes back to what we've always talked about: being mindful and also dating correctly, asking questions. If a person is struggling to communicate during the dating process, what makes you think it's going to get better once you start having sex or get into a relationship? It doesn't. You know what I'm saying? So, however, what I'm saying, you continue to be troubled by many fears regarding the overall connection. And, in those relationships in which the one partner is way more committed than the other person, what I'm saying, that right there can truly, truly hurt your feelings because we've all been down that road where somebody says, I love you. And they were like, oh, so we're really doing that. Or they give you something other than I love you back, or one person thinks that because, what I'm saying, you guys are doing relationship things, going out, hanging out, kissing, hugging, dating sexually, and all these different things. They associate that with being in a relationship. And then you have some men and women that, sex does not dictate you're in a relationship. We're both adults here, so we're making adult decisions. And without actual communication telling me what the next step is or isn't, doesn't mean the same thing to both people. So, open communication and dialogues during the dating process will also help and allow you to navigate the difference between dating or being in a relationship. So, how do you know if you're dating someone, right? Dating is kind of like an initial step with, someone you might or might not, be interested in, and it may or may not turn into an intense relationship with someone. It resembles and it looks a lot like a relationship, but there are a lot of, trial zones. This is where you find out if this person can meet your expectations. This is where you're still trying to be concerned about, if you have a sexual vibe, if you have a good chemistry. Can this person cook? Can this person drive? Can the things that you look for in a relationship, you're looking to see if that person can give you those things, right? You're in the friend zone, you know what I'm saying? And you just kind of just cruise through the relationship. You know what I'm saying? Dating is about developing a romantic scenario with someone who has an attraction. So you're working on a lot of different kinks and different things that you're trying to figure out. And the key word is figuring. If you're trying to figure something out, you cannot move past the dating process. And that's where a lot of the issues come in at when it comes to relationship. You people assume that because we're being intimate that we're in a relationship. But if the other person is still trying to figure some things out, it's unfair to give them that type of pressure or force them into something that they may not be ready for, because then you go back to dating incorrectly and now you're being you're what they call settling in relationship, as we talked about in our previous episodes. You start to settle because now, and this happens to a lot of guys. We guys don't love everybody. We don't love every woman. Women are emotional creatures and they're built differently, and hate it or love it, men don't love everybody. And so we can date you and be in a relationship with you and not be looking for marriage or not be looking for the same things that you're looking for. And with women, you got to understand that clarity is the key to any of this being successful. Dating may be difficult, especially when, one person is lying or, they're being entirely deceitful with the other person. When some individual may be, dating for a sexual motive, or they may be looking for money, or they may be trying to discover, some people are looking for long-term relationships, some people aren't. But it's so confusing, but the dating process is where you're supposed to find that information out. And there are different stages, what I'm saying, to there are different stages to dating and being in a relationship, right? The first thing about, the first date begins with like a casual meetup, what I'm saying? And I know a lot of people like to instantly giving their number out, link up with somebody, and then all of a sudden you're Netflix and chilling. Well, you've already skipped like 10 steps already. You should be starting with the casual meetup. What I'm saying? It's like a result of, just trying to figure out the conversation, seeing if we can have some fun together and have, what I'm saying, enjoy each other's company. What I'm saying? Then you two decide to go out. So when I say a casual meetup, I'm not talking about going out on a $300 date for somebody that you don't know. A lot of women think that just because I know this man and he wants my time, that there's a price tag that comes with dating you. Man, listen, take it from me. I don't know you. I could care less. I could give two craps about you, right? I don't know you. Why am I going to spend, what I'm saying, my little paycheck on just trying to hang out with you just for you to close the door on my face, go in the house, and then never hear from me again? If that's all you wanted was a free meal, we could have done that casually for lunch and then just moved on. So all of that comes into play, right? So another process in the date, another stage in the dating is, what I'm saying, you proceed when you go out on those different dates and you're trying to, what I'm saying, trying to hang out and you're spending time with each other and trying to enjoy each other's company. At this point, what I'm saying, you're infatuated. And again, you're not in love. You're infatuated with the fact that I'm vibing with somebody and I'm enjoying spending time with them. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying? You long to spend all this good time with them and everything. And after that, progressively becomes an increasingly fascinated, and you become fascinated. So we went from infatuation to fascinated. And, I can go into the definition of the two, but infatuation means that you like what you don't know. You're falling for what you don't know. But once you know, and it comes with that time that we talked, right? Once you start to put that time and energy and effort in, right? You start to become fascinated that this person thinks like me, acts like me, is saying all the things that I want to hear. So now we're going to progress, right? To the next stage, right? And in the next stage, you're going to start getting comfortable with each other, what I'm saying? And you're going to start doing weird things in front of each other. For a lady, you might actually eat a full meal, or for a guy, you might burp past gas, whatever your thing is, right? Because again, people don't fall in love with the good things about you. People fall, they fall out of love with the things that are bad about you. So this is where you start to open up and give them the real version of yourself. Remember, we're not 10 dates in. You know what I'm saying? So let's not get the confusion, right? We've already been talking and chopping it up over the phone, and we're spending a little bit of time. Now we get to a point where we're starting to be, um, you start to open up with yourself. You know what I'm saying? You become more genuine. You know what I'm saying? And you're wasting hours together, even at home, and what I'm saying. You're letting go, and you're not. There's no need to impress each other anymore, right? You're just being honest now. This is that next stage in the dating process where, what I'm saying, you're letting the person know who you are, and they're seeing you, and now you're seeing who they really are, and you start to relax. You know what I'm saying? And so as your love for them start, or your feelings or your love or whatever start to deepen, you know what I'm saying, you start to realize that simply dating them is not sufficient for you. See, you've already thought that we were dating already. We're still just hanging out. I'm still having some uncertainty, some awkwardness. I'm starting to feel comfortable. But now I'm beyond the fascination part. I done opened up. I done took these necessary steps, right? So now I'm fin to take it a step further, right? So remember, the first step was going to casually meet up. We're going to do a little, backtracking here. You're going to casually meet up, right? And then you're going to start to hang out. You're going to start to spend time with each other. Then you're going to start to get comfortable, the infatuation, and then the fascination. Then you're going to start to open up and start to let a person get to know you. You start spending some real time with this other person, right? And then as your love or your feelings and everything start to deepen, you start to realize that simply dating ain't enough for you no more, right? So what do? You finally learn to differentiate between dating and being involved at this point. Because again, we're not in a relationship, people. You like to jump the game, you like to jump the gun and everything, right? We're gonna date, and then we're gonna get involved. And the difference between the two is dating, meaning I have discrepancy on what it is I want to do and who I want to be with. I can date other people because maybe I'm trying to learn more about them. Maybe I'm trying to learn. Listen, women aren't shy about. I want to make sure I make the right or the best choice for me. So as fellas, you have the right to do the same thing, right? So just because she's infatuated or just because you guys have got involved, you're still not dating yet. You're still getting to the nitty gritty of. You know what I'm saying? And you're trying to figure out how to get into a relationship where you're both committed. Okay. And then finally, right, the partnership stage begins. You know what I'm saying? Where, how do I say it? Single means one, right? But any word that has ship at the end of it means more than one. Friendship, partnership, relationship, right? They all mean more than one. So we're going to talk about now. This is where the partnership begins. You guys have to, like, if you know anything about business, you have to present what it is you bring to the table. I present what I bring to the table, and we're going to figure out, can you and I create a bond that says that we can go forward to, and again in business term, right? Go forward and put together a profit and loss, right? But in a relationship, it's the same terminology, just has a different meaning. The profit is I'm going to be giving my all and looking for that same thing in return. The loss comes when I don't get what it is that I'm putting into it. And just like in a partnership, if one person is giving and the other person doing all the taking, it's not going to last that long. But since you both feel the same way about one another, you know what I'm saying? You decide to move forward with a relationship. You know what I'm saying? And voila, right? You and this person have a serious relationship, making difficult, you know what I'm saying, for that other person to consider seeing someone else. Doesn't stop them from seeing someone, but it makes it difficult because when you care about someone, you have a tendency to not want to do things that may hurt and or harm them. And sometimes you get in over your head, sometimes you make crappy decisions, but when you've actually done the dating process correctly and went through these steps that we just got through talking about, it makes it a lot more difficult for a person to do those two different things to each other. You know what I'm saying? And when two people live together, like in a relationship, the term dating usually no longer applies. Instead, they're regarded as cohabitating at this point. And again, everything that we're talking about, there's a upside and a downside to it, because if you don't have that real conversation with the other person, one person is being left behind and one person is moving forward. You're not balanced anymore. One person is giving, the other person is taking. You're doomed for failure. And there's a difference between relationships, you know what I'm saying, and dating. Okay. Relationships and dating are two whole separate words. Despite their tight connection, they remain difficult, in their own right because of their nature. People frequently misunderstand them. I'm gonna try to give you some scenarios in different ones, in each one of them, in dating and in the relationship status. So let's take for instance the foundation, right? um, when you're dealing with the foundation of something, we're gonna talk about the relationship part first, and then we're gonna talk about versus dating. In a relationship, relationships are built on trust and understanding. No relationship can last if you cannot understand the other person's true feelings. But when you're dating, someone always, prefer to date one person while other prefers to date multiple people, right? So there comes with a whole lot of uncertainty, and people aren't keen on pretty much committing to each other. So the difference in the foundation in relationships, it's based upon trust, commitment, and loyalty. But in dating, it's about finding your own niche, finding your own person, finding what works best for you, and then we can decide whether that works for us. Okay. Another difference between the two is commitment, right? In a relationship, the foundation of a relationship and the reason is, qualifies as such is the commitment to one another. Okay. Even in the involvement stage, right? You don't have to be totally committed because you haven't really said we want to be in a relationship. I'm involved with this person, right? There's a slight version of commitment, but it's not actually committed. But when you're in a relationship, there is a true and solid foundational commitment. But when it's dating, it's unique. There is a little, there is little simple and not so much intercommunication, right? Couples who are dating engage in casual banter and decisions, right? One person makes a decision, this time the other person, you're trying to build a foundation on what it is, on how we're going to commit to each other if we can commit to each other. Okay. Another one would be the expectation. There's a difference in relationships and in dating when it comes to expectations. In a relationship, expectations are the foundations of a relationship. You have a very high expectation for your partner, and a lot of women are going to try to refer to the expectation part as being them being committed to you, but that expectation comes in the form of, um, if my car breaks down, what I'm saying, who's expected to take care of that? If I'm hungry, who's expected to take care of that? um, when we're going somewhere, who's choosing the place? There was a high expectation in that form when it comes to a relationship. It's not just so much as for one person, but it's usually the expectations for the both of us. And as long as you continue to speak in a singular term, you've never really formed a bond of the ship part that we talked about, SHIP, relationship, partnership, friendship, where it's about more than one person than just the other. But on the dating side, if you're dating someone, you have a lower expectation of them because you both understand that it's casual and there aren't really any expectations, what I'm saying, on a future with them or anything. You know what I'm saying? I might be seeing three other people, you might be seeing one other person. But once you get to that point where you're trying to be involved, right, the expectation level changes. And when it comes to the expectation, I want to make something clear. A lot of people don't understand what each title actually means. What I mean by that is if I met someone, right? Oh man, that's just somebody I know, right? There's no expectation. When you say, me and her are dating, there's a certain expectation that comes with that, right? When you say we're involved, there's another level of expectation. We're in a relationship, that's another expectation. We're engaged, we're living together, we're married, we're getting divorced. There is expectation that comes with each one of those titles. For the longest part of my life, I decided that I wasn't going to do any titles simply because people don't understand what comes with those titles. Some people just like to casually just kind of go about things as is without actually putting any, any definition to it. And if you don't know what that means, then you might not want to put a title to something until you actually know what it means, not only to yourself, but to the other person, and then to someone else and someone else, because you want to get some clarity. One person doesn't know everything, so you need to get clarity or different interpretations of words so that you know what's going on. Okay. And I just want to kind of throw that in there. But like my last one I want to give you on that is like the seriousness level of dating versus being in a relationship. When you're in a relationship, how you interact with the other person during a relationship may change since the other person has priorities that are different than yours in life. You know what I'm saying? And so again, my interpretation was it was always dating. A woman says that we're in a relationship. To me, we're saying the same thing. To that other person, it means two separate things. So you may think that I'm not as serious as you are because I'm using a different word or terminology than you are versus the words that you're using. So the priorities are different. The lack of whatever has a whole lot more seriousness when it comes to it. But when you're dating, someone, you may not even be serious about them, so you don't prioritize them or other things, such as work, friends, or activities. You don't include them, and this is not always the case because some jobs don't allow it. Some things in your life don't, cohabitate with two different people. Everything, again, we're talking in general terms, right? And so you have to understand that the seriousness level of that person is based upon their interpretation. If you're dating, they have very low um, expectations. And when you're in a relationship, they have very high expectations. So this changes, what I'm saying, the difference between the two. You know, a relationship is exclusive, but dating is not, And although relationships, has the exclusive tag, and dating is not required to be such. So you're asking like what exactly is dating? Well, to discover the one, you should not be limiting yourself to just one person. You know what I'm saying? Give yourself options, give yourself an opportunity because just because he's handsome, he may not have a job. Just because she can cook, she may not know how to drive or whatever, right? That's the whole point of the dating, but you also have to be honest with the other person when you're dating about what's going on so that they at least know that you don't want to take away the other person's choice. And I can't stress that enough. You know what I'm saying? Don't take away my choice. Give me the option to choose. Because when I choose to deal with you and the three other people that you're dealing with, I can't be mad and or jealous about what's going on because I understood what went into it, going into it. But when you're not in a relationship, things are entirely different. Okay. You love the other person's company a lot, what I'm saying, being around them, but you're not ready, what I'm saying, you're not sure yet, or you're not ready to fully commit. That means you're still dating, which makes what I'm saying, it makes you nervous. It makes your palms sweaty because again, I'm committed and I'm all in on you, but you don't see things the same way I do. And sometimes you want to spend most of your time with them and your relationship is exclusive and there is no place, for uncertainty when you're trying to put the exclusive tag on something. And so that becomes very keen. Okay. And there becomes also when you get into a relationship, there's a difference in the priorities, right? You know what I'm saying? You both go on dates, possibly a lot, some of you not enough, right? But only when you're free. And although the other person will schedule like arrangements or make appointments or whatever with you, you won't put anything else above them because that's the person you're trying to make a priority. And in the context of dating, that is reasonable. You know what I'm saying? And that's why it's called dating versus being in a relationship. Because when you're in a relationship, you're not making arrangements. You're not trying to set up. You're telling them what we're doing, where we're going, how we're going to get there, what we're going to do when we get there. So it's different. The goal's different when two people are involved in a relationship. You both make an effort to find time for each other. And even a half hour of catch up will improve your day. Perhaps, people take it lightly, that good morning text or that good night text. You know what I'm saying? Some people take that seriously and some people don't give it as much value. You don't miss that good morning text until you don't get it. That, how was your day thing? I may not legitimately care how your day was, but the fact that I asked, that may mean the world to that other person. And ladies, this goes for you as well. Just because you only want to talk about your day don't mean you can forget about his. But when you're dating, those things aren't a priority to you. You don't really care. As I've stated once before in numerous episodes, right? If you're looking for love, then you shouldn't be talking about sex. But if you're looking for sex, you shouldn't be talking about love. Again, the priorities have to be on the same page. They must be up to snuff for the both of you. You know what I'm saying? So that you can spend more time. You know what I'm saying? You both change your plans to see the other person. You know what I'm saying? That's what you do when you're trying to be involved with someone. That demonstrates that you have given each other priorities above anything and everyone else. And that's a huge step when it comes to distinguishing the difference, right? Um, there's a level of partnership when it comes to dating and being in a relationship. You know, once you go from the dating phase and and you take it to a more severe stage, right? It's almost as if though the entire face of the relationship changed, as I stated before, right? There is a certain level of expectation that comes with every title that you give in any type of relationship or involvement with someone. You know, when you sick with a nasty cold, you don't expect the other person that you're dating to bring you chicken soup. That's not. You don't, right? But when you're in a relationship, you can't act that way. You know what I'm saying? If they say they're sick, they're telling you for a reason. And if you're dating correctly, you know what those reasons means. You know, when you get sick, what can I expect from you? You're doing all these different things to figure out. You know, and the outlook on your, you know, your darkest hours and all that, it gives you way more clarity because this is where a lot of relationships end because when you're in a relationship with someone, you might want to find out if I got bedridden or if I became overweight or if I was in a wheelchair or I couldn't take care of myself. Is that something you are prepared to do? Because a lot of people don't. Again, there's listen. There's a certain expectation that comes with it. If you're dating, right? If all of a sudden you got confined to a wheelchair, you cannot expect you can't you shouldn't expect the other person that you're dating, not in a relationship with, that you're dating, to be the one to push around all the time. It would be nice, it would be great if they did, and it would, you know what I'm saying, to make you smile a whole lot more if that's what happened. But if you don't find this out early, you may find out too late that you're out in this relationship by yourself. Your expectation and their expectations are not one and the same. If you take a sick day off or whatever, right, or PTO, and you're dating, you know what I'm saying, you don't anticipate seeing the individual anytime soon, right? So dating is not related to giving your time to the other person. It doesn't have a high demand or priority when it comes to the other person, okay? But in a relationship, if I take time off to spend time with you, then there's a certain level of expectation. I'm expecting you to follow through on your end to be there so that we can follow through with that. Um, Relationships have a potential to last forever, right? Contrary to dating, it is typically, you know what I'm saying, like a brief relationship that doesn't continue any longer than, you know, six to 12 months, right? It's casual, right? You're dating. There is no intent behind it. You're just casually hanging out because you never move forward. It doesn't take 6 months to move forward with someone. Either you will or you won't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. There is no in between. There is no gray area, right? But if it continues more than 6 months, it is likely a sign that the two people involved in this can gradually move forward to involvement and being in a relationship. And again, there is no time frame on dating. If you still have uncertainty, you should be clear that you are still dating. Okay? You have to be clear. But however, no one often dates someone for more than 6 months while they're dating. You know what I'm saying? It rarely goes beyond that. So consider where things might go if you have been dating for a while and you spend, you know, far too many evenings together, you know, so hanging out at nighttime and going on different dates, cuddling with each other on the couch and watching movies, Netflix and chilling, right? You have to understand either you're comfortable with the dating process, right? And if you're not comfortable with it, then you have to make a decision on how much more of yourself are you willing to give this individual, all of you. And all of you doesn't mean just your body. We're talking about your mind. We're talking about your time, your energy, your effort. You know what I'm saying? They're driving over to their house or meeting them over here or doing all these different things. You have to be really conscious now of how much more of this person am I willing to give just because. Excuse me. But in conclusion, right, I want to make sure we all know the difference. You know, the differences described in this and the things that I'm saying. You know, above like that we talked about are kind of like just highlights of relationship and terminology, right? Like I said, we just kind of giving you some things to think about and then look at. You know, the details like giving them an identity. You know, both of them are fun, right? But you have to be able to separate the difference between dating individual involvement and being in a relationship because they all come with a certain levels of expectation. Okay, it's okay to date. You can't make mistakes while you're dating. You can waste your time, you can waste your energy, but it's not a mistake because you're dating. But if you jump into a relationship too soon, that's when you start making mistakes, and that's when you start carrying the baggage, the uncertainties, and being settling in relationships and doing all the things that we've talked about before. you know the main difference between dating and being in a relationship is that, in a relationship it's exclusive, while dating it's not. There's no chance. So you have to, it doesn't take long to figure out if you're going to move forward or not, right? And even though, it's a simple, the mix of the two, you can't, like I said in the beginning, you kind of carry on between the two of you, everything pretty much the same way, dating and being in a relationship. Again, I was confused by this as well. But one of them has an end game. The other one, you just want to see where it's going to end up. And that's the game. And you know what I'm saying? And usually that's when it gets confusing, when you don't do this correctly to figure out what's next and where you're going. Um, you guys have been amazing. This season has two more episodes left in it. I hope that this episode gave you guys some clarity, some understanding on what it is that you're looking for and where you hope that relationships can go and the things that you're looking for. When I started this out, I did not intend for this to be a whole season on relationships, but that's where it all comes together at. And so why not roll with it? Because there's a lot of information that, again, that I've been through and that other people are going through. So if this episode, you listen to it all the way through, and if you got nothing from it, thank you for listening. I hope that you share the information with someone who may get something from it. Sometimes you may just want to hear my voice. Sometimes there may be some meaning behind it. Sometimes these episodes aren't for you, and that's okay. Um, we've been growing tremendously, over this season, a lot faster than I interpreted, than I thought would actually be possible. But that's only because you guys are, making a choice to share the information. The flyers are helping, is putting it out there. The videos that I'm doing is helping a lot. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that can hear my voice. Um, like I said, we have two episodes left. The last one, it's gonna be kind of wicked, but that's the one I'm gonna go out where you guys can't cuss me out on that last one, because it's not gonna be an episode that everybody wants to hear or like. But I look forward to doing it. I've already done the homework on it, so just putting it out there for you guys. The DBL podcast.wordpress.com. You can catch us on TikTok. You can catch me on Facebook. You can catch me on YouTube. That don't forget that the YouTube episodes are on. They're out on Sundays, the day before. The new episodes come out on Mondays at 2 a.m. Eastern time. So until next time, everybody. From